You think homemade Christmas candy requires fancy equipment and professional training? Think again. For generations, home cooks created stunning confections using nothing more than a heavy pot, a wooden spoon, and recipes passed down through families. Let's dig into 30 old-fashioned Christmas candies you can easily make at home. Peanut brittle was the gateway candy for generations of home confectioners, requiring nothing more than sugar, corn syrup, peanuts, and a candy thermometer. The magic happened when sugar syrup reached hard crack stage, turning from bubbling amber liquid into glass-like sheets within seconds of being poured. Raw peanuts were stirred in just before pouring, their skins darkening from the residual heat. The brittle had to be stretched thin while still pliable, a race against time that made candy making exciting. Once cooled, it shattered into irregular shards with satisfying snaps that echoed through holiday kitchens. The combination of caramelized sugar and roasted peanuts created flavor complexity that store-bought versions could never match. Families wrapped pieces in cellophane for gift-giving, the golden candy catching light like edible stained glass. Peanut brittle proved that spectacular results came from mastering basic techniques and timing. Fudge was the candy that taught patience, requiring constant stirring and precise temperature control to transform simple ingredients into velvety confection. Sugar, butter, milk, and chocolate cooked together until the mixture reached soft ball stage, then the real work began with vigorous beating. The transformation was almost magical, thin, glossy liquid becoming thick and creamy as tiny sugar crystals formed during beating. Poured into buttered pans, the fudge set into squares that melted on the tongue with intense chocolate richness. Variations abounded, from peanut butter to maple walnut, each family guarding their secret proportions jealously. The difference between grainy failure and perfect smoothness came down to temperature and technique that only practice could teach. Children learned candy making at their grandmother's elbow, stirring heavy pots with serious concentration. Fudge represented Christmas tradition passed through generations of patient teachers and eager students. Divinity earned its heavenly name from texture so light and airy it seemed to float on the tongue like sweetened clouds. Hot sugar syrup was poured in thin streams into beaten egg whites, the mixture transforming into glossy peaks that held their shape when dropped onto waxed paper. The candy required perfect conditions, dry weather and precise timing, making successful batches feel like small miracles worth celebrating. Humidity was Divinity's enemy, turning firm mounds into sticky puddles that never set properly. Experienced candy makers checked the weather before attempting Divinity, knowing damp days meant disappointment. Pecans pressed into each piece added crunch and richness to the ethereal sweetness. The candy dissolved almost instantly, leaving nothing but pure sugar rush and satisfaction. Families who mastered Divinity's temperamental nature earned reputations as serious candy makers in their communities. Divinity proved that impressive results came from understanding how ingredients behaved. Caramels required the longest cooking time but rewarded patience with buttery, chewy perfection that no store-bought candy could match. Sugar, corn syrup, butter, and cream cooked low and slow, the mixture gradually darkening from pale gold to rich amber over nearly an hour. The Maillard reaction created hundreds of complex flavor compounds that gave homemade caramels their distinctive taste. Temperature control was crucial. Too hot, and the caramels would be hard. Too cool, and they would never set. Poured into buttered pans and cooled overnight, the candy was cut into squares and wrapped individually in waxed paper. The texture yielded slowly to teeth, releasing waves of butter and vanilla that lingered long after swallowing. Families made enormous batches, knowing caramels disappeared faster than almost any other Christmas candy on the plate. Caramels taught that some of the best things came to those who stirred and waited patiently by the stove. Peppermint bark appeared deceptively simple but delivered dramatic visual impact that made it a favorite holiday gift. Dark chocolate was tempered and spread thin on parchment-lined sheets, then topped with white chocolate before either layer fully set. Crushed candy canes scattered across the surface added festive red and white color along with cool peppermint crunch. The chocolate layers bonded together but remained distinct when broken into irregular shards. Breaking the finished candy into pieces became a satisfying ritual, each shard unique in shape. The temperature contrast between cool peppermint and rich chocolate created flavor that screamed Christmas. Home cooks discovered that tempering chocolate properly prevented the white bloom that ruined visual appeal. Bark required no cooking at all, just careful melting and timing, making it perfect for beginners intimidated by thermometers. Peppermint bark proved that stunning candy came from understanding how simple ingredients work together. Pralines brought New Orleans elegance to Christmas candy plates, their creamy texture and pecan-studded surfaces looking almost too pretty to eat. Brown sugar and white sugar combined with cream and butter, cooking until the mixture reached soft ball stage and turned golden. Pecans were stirred in just before dropping the candy by spoonfuls onto waxed paper, each praline spreading into free-form discs. The cooling process was crucial. Working too slowly meant candy that hardened in the pot. The texture fell somewhere between fudge and caramel, creamy yet with slight graininess that distinguished authentic pralines. Butter and brown sugar created caramel-like depth, while cream added richness that coated each pecan half beautifully. Pralines required practice to master the dropping technique that created perfect portions every time. The candy represented Southern hospitality, often gifted in decorative boxes tied with ribbon. Pralines proved that regional traditions created beloved Christmas confections. Chocolate truffles seemed intimidating until home cooks discovered how simple the basic technique truly was. Heavy cream was heated until just simmering, then poured over chopped chocolate to create ganache that formed the truffle's heart. After chilling until firm, the ganache was scooped and rolled into rough balls, the rustic appearance mimicking the French fungi that inspired their name. Coating options ranged from cocoa powder to chopped nuts to tempered chocolate for a glossy finish. The interior texture was creamy and dense, melting slowly across the tongue with intense chocolate flavor. Variations multiplied: espresso, orange liqueur, mint, raspberry, each creating entirely different character from the same base. Truffles looked expensive yet cost a fraction of boutique chocolate shop prices. The candy taught that impressive results came from quality chocolate and simple technique. Home cooks gained confidence, discovering that professional-looking truffles required no special equipment beyond a saucepan. Toffee delivered that satisfying shatter that candy lovers craved, breaking cleanly between teeth before dissolving into buttery sweetness. Butter and sugar cooked together until the mixture reached hard crack stage, the color deepening from pale yellow to amber. The timing required attention. Pull it too early and the toffee would be chewy. Wait too long and bitter notes would ruin everything. Poured thin onto buttered sheets, the candy cooled into rigid panels topped with melted chocolate and chopped almonds. The finished toffee was broken into irregular pieces, each one layered with contrasting textures of brittle candy, smooth chocolate, and crunchy nuts. English toffee earned its name from using butter rather than oil, creating richer flavor than other versions. The candy kept for weeks in airtight containers, improving slightly as flavors melded together over time. Toffee proved that mastering temperature and timing transformed simple ingredients into confectionery gold. Candied citrus peel transformed fruit scraps into jewel-like confections that added sophisticated elegance to Christmas candy assortments. Orange, lemon, and grapefruit peels were cut into strips, blanched repeatedly to remove bitterness, then simmered in sugar syrup until translucent. The candied strips were rolled in granulated sugar while still tacky, creating a crystalline coating that sparkled under holiday lights. The process took most of a day, but required little active attention, allowing other tasks while the peels transformed. The finished candy offered intense citrus flavor, balanced by sweetness, with chewy texture unlike anything else on the plate. Some families dipped the candied peels halfway in dark chocolate, adding another flavor dimension. The candy used parts of fruit that would otherwise be discarded, appealing to traditional waste-nothing philosophy. Candied peels kept for months, making them perfect for early holiday preparation and gift-giving. Saltwater taffy carried boardwalk nostalgia into Christmas kitchens, the pulling process becoming a family activity that children anticipated all year. Sugar, corn syrup, butter, and salt cooked to firm ball stage. Then the fun began as hot candy was stretched and folded repeatedly until it lightened in color. The pulling incorporated air and aligned sugar crystals, transforming sticky mass into smooth, glossy ropes that could be twisted and cut. Flavoring and coloring were added during pulling, creating swirled effects that looked as festive as Christmas ribbon. The candy required multiple hands, one person pulling while another folded, turning candy making into collaborative celebration. Waxed paper squares wrapped each piece, the twisted ends becoming as traditional as the candy itself. The chew was long and satisfying, releasing flavor slowly as taffy softened on warm tongues. Saltwater taffy proved that the best Christmas memories came from making candy together. Penuche was Fudge's brown sugar cousin, delivering deep caramel notes that chocolate versions could never achieve. Brown sugar, white sugar, butter, and milk cooked together until the mixture reached soft ball stage, then beaten until thick and creamy. The molasses in brown sugar created flavor complexity that reminded tasters of butterscotch and caramel wrapped into one confection. Walnuts or pecans were folded in just before pouring, their toasted richness complementing the candy's depth. The texture was slightly grainier than chocolate fudge, with a melt-in-your-mouth quality that made it dangerously addictive. Penuche required the same temperature precision as regular fudge, but delivered an entirely different flavor experience. Families who made both types discovered that Penuche often disappeared first from holiday platters. The candy represented old-fashioned American confectionery at its finest. Penuche proved that sometimes the less famous version was actually the more delicious one. Coconut bonbons hid creamy centers beneath chocolate shells, each bite revealing layers of texture and sweetness that surprised and delighted. Sweetened condensed milk mixed with shredded coconut formed the filling, chilled until firm enough to roll into balls. The coconut mixture was impossibly sweet and dense, designed to be eaten in small portions that satisfied completely. Each ball was dipped in melted chocolate, the coating forming a thin shell that cracked pleasantly when bitten. Some families added food coloring to the coconut mixture, creating pastel centers that looked beautiful when sliced in half. The candies required no cooking at all, making them perfect for young helpers learning their way around holiday candy making. Stored in the refrigerator, bonbons kept for weeks, ready for unexpected guests. The combination of chewy coconut and smooth chocolate created textural contrast that kept people reaching for more. Coconut bonbons proved that no-cook candies rivaled cooked versions. Molasses taffy connected Christmas present to Christmas past, its dark color and robust flavor recalling an era when refined sugar was expensive and rare. Molasses, sugar, butter, and vinegar cooked together until the mixture reached firm ball stage, then pulled until it lightened slightly but retained its distinctive amber hue. The flavor was deeper and more complex than regular taffy, with hints of smokiness and earth that modern candies rarely delivered. The pulling process was vigorous, requiring strong arms and determination, but the results justified every moment of effort. Cut into pieces and wrapped in waxed paper, molasses taffy kept its chew for weeks without hardening or becoming sticky. Children who grew up with this candy remembered it fondly, often requesting it specifically when holiday baking began. The taffy represented a time when candy was special because ingredients were precious. Molasses taffy proved that old recipes endured because they delivered flavors modern versions could not match. Marzipan transformed almonds into edible art, the pliable paste shaped into fruits, vegetables, and animals that decorated holiday tables with whimsy. Blanched almonds were ground to fine powder, then mixed with powdered sugar and egg whites until a smooth, clay-like dough formed. The paste could be tinted with food coloring and molded into any shape imagination suggested, from tiny apples with clove stems to miniature potatoes dusted with cocoa. The almond flavor was intense and sophisticated, appealing more to adults than children but appreciated by all who tasted it. Marzipan required no cooking, just patience and artistic vision, making it perfect for crafty candy makers who enjoyed detailed work. The finished shapes were often too pretty to eat, displayed on platters until someone finally broke down and took a bite. European immigrants brought marzipan traditions to America, where they became part of many families' Christmas customs. Marzipan proved that candy making could be art as much as cooking. Hard candy drops sparkled like jewels in glass jars, their clear colors and intense flavors making them essential to old-fashioned Christmas celebrations. Sugar and corn syrup cooked to hard crack stage created the base, with flavoring oils and food coloring added just before pouring. Working quickly while the candy remained pliable, makers stretched and cut the mixture into drops or formed it into ribbons. The finished candies were crystal clear and clicked together musically when shaken in jars. Flavors ranged from peppermint and cinnamon to lemon and anise, each one concentrated and long-lasting on the tongue. The candy-making process required speed and precision as cooling sugar quickly became unworkable. Children watched in amazement as liquid transformed into solid gems before their eyes. Hard candy drops kept indefinitely in airtight containers, perfect for preparing weeks ahead. The drops proved that mastering high-temperature candy work opened doors to creativity. Rum balls required no baking and improved with age, making them perfect for busy holiday seasons when time was precious. Crushed vanilla wafers mixed with cocoa, powdered sugar, corn syrup, chopped nuts, and dark rum created dough that was rolled into spheres. The balls were then coated in powdered sugar, cocoa, or finely chopped nuts for variety and visual appeal. The rum flavor mellowed and deepened over several days, the alcohol softening cookie crumbs into fudge-like texture. Adults appreciated the sophisticated boozy notes while understanding these were definitely not for children. The recipe could be adjusted. More rum for stronger flavor, different liqueurs for variation, making it endlessly adaptable. Rum balls required no special equipment and no temperature monitoring, just mixing and rolling by hand. They could be made in under an hour, yielding dozens of rich confections. Rum balls proved that elegant holiday candies were often the simplest to prepare. Sugar plums existed long before visions of them danced in children's heads, the real confection being far more interesting than most people imagined. Dried fruits like dates, figs, apricots, and prunes were ground together, then mixed with honey, spices, and finely chopped almonds. The mixture was rolled into small balls and coated with granulated sugar that sparkled like snow under candlelight. The flavor was complex and not overly sweet, the dried fruits providing natural sweetness while spices added warmth and depth. Sugar plums were among the oldest European Christmas confections, predating chocolate candies by centuries. The candies kept for months when properly stored, their flavors improving as spices melded with fruit over time. Children who expected something like gumdrops were often surprised by the sophisticated taste. Sugar plums connected modern Christmas celebrations to medieval traditions. The candies proved that historical recipes often delivered flavors that contemporary versions had forgotten or abandoned entirely. Chocolate-covered cherries hid juicy surprises beneath smooth shells, the liquid centers forming through old-fashioned candy magic that seemed almost impossible. Maraschino cherries were wrapped in fondant, a cooked sugar mixture that created creamy texture, then dipped in chocolate to seal everything inside. Over several days, enzymes in the cherries liquefied the fondant, creating the signature gush of sweet syrup when bitten. The process required patience and proper storage, but the results rivaled any boxed candy from expensive chocolate shops. The combination of fruit, cream, and chocolate delivered multiple flavor and texture experiences in each piece. Home cooks who mastered the technique gained reputations as serious confectioners among family and friends. The cherries were often saved for special moments, each one too precious to eat casually. Chocolate-covered cherries proved that understanding candy science created results that seemed like magic to everyone else. Butterscotch discs brought old-fashioned candy counter nostalgia to Christmas kitchens, their golden color and buttery sweetness impossible to resist. Brown sugar, butter, corn syrup, and water cooked together until the mixture reached hard crack stage, developing deep caramelized flavors as temperature climbed. The hot candy was dropped by spoonfuls onto buttered sheets, each disc spreading into perfect circles with slightly irregular edges. The flavor was intensely buttery with hints of molasses from the brown sugar, far more complex than any store-bought version could match. The discs were hard but dissolved slowly on the tongue, releasing sweetness gradually rather than all at once. Some cooks added a splash of vanilla or a pinch of salt to enhance the butterscotch character even further. The candy kept for weeks in airtight tins, ready for snacking or gifting whenever the occasion arose. Butterscotch discs proved that classic flavors never went out of style when made properly at home. Candied ginger delivered warmth that spread from tongue to belly, the spicy sweet combination perfect for cold December evenings. Fresh ginger root was peeled, sliced thin, and simmered repeatedly in sugar syrup until tender and translucent. The candying process tamed raw ginger's fierce bite while preserving enough heat to tingle pleasantly. Each piece was rolled in granulated sugar, creating crystals that sparkled and added textural contrast to the chewy interior. The candy aided digestion and soothed winter ailments, making it as medicinal as it was delicious. Candied ginger could be eaten alone, chopped into cookies, or dipped in dark chocolate for extra decadence. The process took several hours of simmering but required little active attention, allowing other tasks between stirrings. The finished candy kept for months in airtight containers, improving slightly as flavors concentrated. Candied ginger proved that some of the best Christmas confections served purposes beyond simple sweetness. Maple cream candy melted on the tongue like sweetened snowflakes, the pure maple flavor transporting tasters to Vermont sugar houses in an instant. Pure maple syrup was boiled to soft ball stage without any additions, then cooled and stirred until it transformed from liquid to creamy solid. The stirring required patience and arm strength, but the result was unlike any other candy: smooth, rich, and intensely maple. Poured into molds or spread in pans, the candy set into shapes that looked almost too elegant to eat. The flavor was concentrated maple without the dilution of cream or butter that other recipes required. Families in New England made maple cream candy as a Christmas tradition, using syrup tapped from their own trees or purchased from local producers. The candy kept well in cool temperatures but softened quickly in warmth. Maple cream proved that sometimes the purest approach created the most memorable results. Peanut butter cups rivaled the famous store-bought version while costing a fraction of the price and tasting infinitely fresher. Chocolate was melted and spooned into paper candy cups, swirled up the sides to form shells, then chilled until firm. Peanut butter mixed with powdered sugar and butter created filling that was sweeter and creamier than commercial versions. The filling was pressed into chocolate shells, then topped with more melted chocolate to seal everything inside. The homemade version allowed customization: dark chocolate for adults, milk chocolate for children, crunchy peanut butter for texture lovers. Each cup delivered that perfect ratio of chocolate to peanut butter that made the combination so universally beloved. The candies required no cooking beyond melting chocolate, making them accessible to beginners. Peanut butter cups proved that homemade versions of familiar favorites often surpass the originals in every way. Almond bark spread holiday cheer with minimal effort, the simple combination of chocolate and nuts creating a candy that disappeared faster than any other. White or dark chocolate was melted carefully, then whole toasted almonds were stirred in until completely coated. The mixture was spread onto parchment-lined sheets and allowed to set at room temperature or in the refrigerator. Breaking the bark into irregular pieces became part of the pleasure, each shard unique and inviting. The ratio of nuts to chocolate could be adjusted to preference, some preferring more nuts while others wanted chocolate dominance. Toasting the almonds before adding them intensified their flavor and added subtle warmth. The bark kept for weeks in airtight containers, making it perfect for early holiday preparation. Almond bark required no candy thermometer and no special skills, just melted chocolate and a willing spirit. The simplicity proved that impressive results did not require complicated techniques. Spiced pecans straddled the line between candy and snack, their sugar-crusted exteriors and warm spice notes making them irresistible during holiday gatherings. Egg whites were beaten until frothy, Then pecans were tossed in the foam before being coated with a mixture of sugar, cinnamon, and salt. Spread on baking sheets, the nuts roasted until the coating set into crackling shells that shattered with each bite. The combination of sweet, salty, and spiced created flavor complexity that kept hands reaching into the bowl repeatedly. Some recipes added cayenne for heat, others used brown sugar for deeper caramel notes. The nuts could be made in enormous batches and stored for weeks, ready for impromptu entertaining. Packaged in decorative bags, spiced pecans made gifts that recipients actually wanted to receive. The recipe required no candy-making expertise, just an oven and basic ingredients. Spiced pecans proved that holiday treats did not need to be complicated to be beloved. Cream cheese mints melted on the tongue with cool peppermint freshness that cleansed the palate after rich holiday meals. Cream cheese was beaten with powdered sugar and peppermint extract until smooth, then tinted with food coloring if desired. The mixture was pressed into rubber candy molds, creating shapes from roses to Christmas trees that looked professionally made. After chilling until firm, the mints popped easily from their molds, ready for serving or gifting. The texture was creamy rather than hard, dissolving slowly to release waves of mint flavor. Families made hundreds of mints for wedding receptions and holiday parties, the simple recipe scaling up effortlessly. The mints could be frozen for months, thawed just before serving without any loss of quality. Pink, green, and white versions arranged on silver trays created stunning presentations. Cream cheese mints proved that elegant results came from understanding how simple ingredients work together. Honeycomb candy shattered into thousands of tiny bubbles, the airy structure creating texture unlike any other confection in the Christmas assortment. Sugar, corn syrup, and honey cooked together until they reached hard crack stage, then baking soda was stirred in vigorously. The chemical reaction created instant foam that expanded dramatically before setting into rigid honeycomb structure. The candy had to be poured immediately while still foaming, spreading into pans where it cooled into golden, crunchy sheets. Breaking it into pieces revealed the intricate bubble structure inside. The flavor was caramelized honey with hints of butterscotch, light enough to eat piece after piece. Some families dipped honeycomb in chocolate, adding richness that complemented the candy's airiness beautifully. The dramatic foaming reaction made honeycomb candy exciting to watch and even more exciting to eat. Honeycomb proved that a little kitchen chemistry created big holiday magic. Old-fashioned ribbon candy required skill and speed but rewarded effort with the most visually stunning candy of the season. Sugar syrup cooked to hard crack stage was poured onto marble slabs, then worked while still pliable into thin sheets. Multiple colors were layered together, then folded accordion style into ribbons that caught light from every angle. The candy was fragile and required careful storage, but its beauty made it worth the extra attention. Each ribbon contained stripes of different colors and sometimes different flavors, creating surprises with every bite. Professional candy makers once sold ribbon candy by the pound, but home cooks could master the technique with practice. The candy kept indefinitely if protected from humidity, though it rarely lasted long enough for storage to matter. Ribbon candy represented the artistry possible when sugar, heat, and skilled hands came together perfectly. Chocolate-dipped pretzels combined sweet and salty in ways that made them impossible to stop eating once started. Thin pretzel rods or twists were dipped halfway in melted chocolate, then laid on parchment to set. Sprinkles, crushed candy canes, or chopped nuts, added while the chocolate was still wet, created endless variations. The contrast between crunchy salt crystals and smooth sweet chocolate hit multiple pleasure centers simultaneously. Dark, milk, and white chocolate versions could be made from the same batch of pretzels for variety. The pretzels required no cooking at all, just careful chocolate melting and steady dipping hands. Children could help with dipping and decorating, making this a perfect family activity. The finished pretzels looked impressive, arranged in clear cellophane bags tied with ribbon. Chocolate-dipped pretzels proved that sometimes the simplest ideas created the most addictive results. Candied nuts and spun sugar looked like edible jewelry, each nut wrapped in gossamer threads that sparkled under holiday lights. Nuts were first candied in caramelized sugar, then additional syrup was cooked to hard crack stage for spinning. Using 2 forks, thin strands of molten sugar were flung back and forth over the nuts, building up delicate nests of golden thread. The technique required practice and worked best in low humidity, but successful results were breathtaking. The spun sugar dissolved almost instantly on the tongue, leaving only the candied nut behind. The presentation was dramatic enough for the fanciest holiday parties, yet the base technique was surprisingly achievable. Professional pastry chefs used the same method, proving that home cooks could create restaurant-quality confections. The candied nuts had to be made the same day they were served, as humidity would dissolve the spun sugar quickly. Peppermint patties delivered cool refreshment beneath dark chocolate shells, each bite a contrast of temperatures and textures. Powdered sugar, corn syrup, and peppermint extract combined into smooth fondant that was rolled and cut into rounds. After chilling until firm, the patties were dipped in dark chocolate, the coating setting into thin shells around minty centers. The chocolate cracked when bitten, releasing the cool peppermint filling that seemed almost cold despite being room temperature. Homemade versions contained more peppermint oil than commercial patties, delivering intense freshness that cleared sinuses and delighted taste buds. The patties could be made any size, from bite-sized minis to large rounds meant for sharing. Stored in the refrigerator, they kept for weeks and actually improved as flavors melded. Peppermint patties proved that classic combinations endured because they delivered satisfaction that never grew tiresome. Fantasy Fudge was the miracle recipe that appeared on marshmallow cream jars and made foolproof fudge accessible to every mother. The recipe combined sugar, butter, and evaporated milk with chocolate chips and marshmallow cream, eliminating the tricky temperature monitoring that traditional fudge required. Mothers boiled the sugar mixture for exactly 5 minutes, then stirred in the chips and cream until everything melted into glossy perfection. The result was smoother and creamier than old-fashioned fudge, with a texture that practically melted on the tongue. Children didn't care that this version was easier. They only knew it tasted incredible and appeared every Christmas. Poured into pans and cut into squares, Fantasy Fudge had the same satisfying density as traditional recipes, but with far less risk of failure. The recipe spread through communities during the 1970s, photocopied and shared between friends. Fantasy Fudge democratized candy making, proving that delicious homemade treats didn't require years of practice. Stuffed celery was the appetizer that kept hands busy and conversation flowing while holiday dinners finished cooking in crowded kitchens. Celery stalks were cut into uniform lengths, their natural curves creating perfect boats for various fillings. Cream cheese mixed with blue cheese crumbles was one popular option, while pimento cheese offered southern flair. Some hostesses piped the filling in decorative ridges, while others simply spread it before arranging stalks on trays. The preparation was simple enough for children to help, making it a task assigned to young hands eager to contribute. Guests would gather in living rooms, reaching for celery sticks between sips of punch. The cool crunch of celery against creamy filling provided textural pleasure that elaborate appetizers couldn't match. Stuffed celery represented the transition from everyday snack to party food. Nothing more than celery dressed up for company. Its disappearance from modern tables seems strange given its simplicity and timeless appeal. Caramels were the buttery squares that stuck to teeth in the most satisfying way, each piece a study in perfectly cooked sugar and cream. Mothers would combine sugar, corn syrup, butter, and cream in heavy pots, stirring constantly as the mixture darkened from pale gold to rich amber. The temperature had to reach exactly the firm ball stage. Too soft, and the caramels wouldn't hold their shape. Too hard, and they'd crack teeth. Poured into buttered pans and cooled, the caramel was cut into squares and wrapped individually in waxed paper twisted at both ends. The texture was dense yet yielding, requiring serious chewing that released waves of buttery, slightly burnt sugar flavor. Some mothers added vanilla, others a pinch of sea salt before salted caramel became trendy. Children would unwrap piece after piece, the waxy paper accumulating in pockets and between couch cushions. Homemade caramels represented patience and precision, candies that couldn't be rushed but rewarded every minute of careful attention. Chess tarts for Christmas multiplied the beloved Southern chess pie into individual portions perfect for holiday gatherings. Each tart shell held the same buttery, custardy filling: eggs, sugar, butter, and a splash of vinegar that gave it distinctive tang. The tops cracked beautifully during baking, creating golden surfaces that shattered with each bite. Families baked dozens for Christmas parties, the small size allowing guests to sample without committing to full slices. The filling was simple but required precise technique to achieve the right texture, neither too runny nor too firm. Some cooks added lemon or chocolate, creating variations that filled platters with visual variety. Children could eat these without the mess of larger desserts, making them practical for holiday chaos. The tarts kept well, actually improving overnight as flavors melded. Chess tarts disappeared as store-bought cookies replaced homemade holiday treats, sacrificing craftsmanship for convenience. Molasses cookies used to fill holiday tins long before chocolate chip cookies took over the world. Soft, spiced, and deeply fragrant, they were made with molasses, ginger, cinnamon, and cloves. Flavors that tasted like winter settling in. Children dipped them in milk. Adults paired them with coffee, and everyone appreciated how long they stayed fresh. These cookies were practical, affordable, and comforting in a way that no modern packaged dessert quite captures. They appeared at bake sales, church socials, and Thanksgiving dinners as symbols of warmth and tradition. But when chocolate became the star of American desserts and holiday baking turned toward richer treats, molasses cookies faded quietly from the spotlight. Still, their flavor is unmatched. Simple, homey, and gently sweet. A cookie that tastes like memory. Corn pudding was Southern hospitality baked into a custard, turning humble canned corn into something rich enough for Christmas tables. Cooks combined creamed corn with eggs, milk, butter, and sugar, sometimes adding flour to help it set. The mixture was poured into buttered dishes and cooked slowly until the top turned golden, while the interior remained soft and spoonable. The texture fell somewhere between cornbread and custard, dense yet creamy, with pops of whole kernels throughout. Some families added diced chilies for savory depth, while purists kept it simple. The dish required careful temperature management, as cooking too fast would curdle the eggs. Grandmothers knew exactly when to pull it from the oven, that moment when the center still jiggled slightly but would firm as it cooled. Corn pudding represented transformation of pantry staples into celebration food, proof that special occasions could be honored without expensive ingredients. Today it appears occasionally at Southern tables but has largely faded. Candied orange peel transformed citrus scraps into jewel-like confections that looked almost too pretty to eat but tasted too good to resist. Mothers sliced orange peels into strips, boiled them repeatedly to remove bitterness, then simmered them in sugar syrup until translucent. Drained and tossed in granulated sugar, the peels sparkled like amber gems, their texture chewy and intensely flavored. Some mothers dipped theirs in dark chocolate, the bitter cocoa complementing sweet citrus perfectly. The candy took days to make properly, requiring multiple blanching sessions, but results were unlike anything from stores. Children were often surprised by how much they loved candied peel, expecting bitterness and finding instead concentrated orange sunshine. Arranged on plates alongside other candies, the peels added color and sophistication that elevated the entire spread. This was the candy that showed a mother's dedication, her willingness to transform what others discarded into something beautiful. Three-bean salad appeared at nearly every holiday gathering throughout the 1970s, its colorful layers making it as beautiful as it was economical. Green beans, yellow wax beans, and kidney beans were drained from cans and combined with sliced onions and bell peppers in large glass bowls. A marinade of oil, vinegar, sugar, and spices was poured over everything. Then the salad rested overnight while flavors melded. The result was tangy and crisp, each bean variety offering different texture and color. What made three-bean salad practical was its cost. Canned beans were inexpensive, and the salad stretched to feed crowds without straining budgets. It traveled well, too, making it a potluck favorite that arrived looking good. The dish required no heating and could sit at room temperature through long gatherings. Three bean salad proved that simple preparations from pantry staples could earn places on festive tables alongside more elaborate offerings. Peanut brittle shattered into golden shards that caught kitchen light like edible amber, its sweet, salty crunch echoing through holiday gatherings. Mothers boiled sugar, corn syrup, and water to the hard crack stage, then stirred in raw peanuts that toasted right in the molten candy. Butter and baking soda were added at the last moment, the soda creating tiny air bubbles that gave brittle its characteristic texture. The mixture was poured onto greased baking sheets and stretched thin while still pliable, requiring heat-resistant hands and quick movements. Once cooled, it was broken into irregular pieces ranging from paper-thin edges to thick, nut-studded centers. The combination of caramelized sugar and roasted peanuts created an addictive flavor that children couldn't resist. Tins of homemade peanut brittle were given as gifts to neighbors and teachers, though families kept the biggest pieces for themselves. This candy represented December traditions when mothers spent hours over hot stoves creating treats no store could match. Floating Island drifted onto Christmas tables as clouds of meringue atop golden custard seas. Soft meringue was poached in milk, then floated on chilled custard made rich with egg yolks and vanilla. The contrast was everything. Airy white islands against smooth yellow depths, sweet puffs dissolving into creamy base with each spoonful. Families served this in shallow bowls that displayed the visual drama to full effect. Making the meringue required gentle handling, the poaching demanding careful temperature control to prevent collapse. Some cooks drizzled caramel threads over the islands, adding golden webs that crackled against soft textures. The custard base needed proper cooking to achieve silkiness without curdling, a skill grandmothers demonstrated rather than explained. Children competed for the largest meringue portions while adults savored the custard's depth. Floating Island required multiple techniques executed perfectly. Its disappearance reflects the loss of patience that defined holiday cooking. Broccoli rice casserole became a 1970s Christmas staple when convenience products merged with home cooking to create something families genuinely craved. Cooks combined cooked rice with chopped broccoli, then folded in cream of mushroom soup and processed cheese spread that melted into golden richness. Some recipes called for sautéed onions and celery, adding layers of flavor beneath the creamy base. The mixture was baked until bubbling around the edges, the top developing golden spots where cheese had caramelized. The texture was comfort itself, creamy rice studded with tender broccoli, every bite coated in savory cheese sauce. Children who refused plain broccoli would eat it gladly when disguised in this casserole, making it a parental victory as much as a side dish. The recipe appeared in community cookbooks across America. Broccoli rice casserole represented an era when processed ingredients were celebrated, when feeding families well meant using every shortcut available. Popcorn balls were the crunchy, sweet spheres that mothers shaped by hand every December, their sticky surfaces catching both popcorn and children's attention. Freshly popped corn was drizzled with hot sugar syrup flavored with vanilla or molasses, then quickly gathered and pressed into balls while still warm enough to hold together. The process required buttered hands and high heat tolerance, as the syrup needed to be hot enough to coat evenly. Once cooled, each ball was wrapped in waxed paper or cellophane tied with ribbon, ready for giving. Children loved the combination of salty popcorn and sweet coating, the way each ball crunched and stuck slightly to teeth. Some mothers tinted their syrup with food coloring, creating red and green balls for the holidays. Popcorn balls appeared at school parties, church gatherings, and on doorsteps as gifts for neighbors. They represented accessible candy making that families could do together. Oatmeal raisin bars were the dessert you baked when you needed something that could stretch across a big family gathering and still leave everyone satisfied. They were soft and chewy, filled with oats, cinnamon, brown sugar, and handfuls of raisins that plumped up in the oven. The bars baked into thick, golden squares that smelled like comfort the moment you opened the oven door. Families made them because they were easy, reliable, and far kinder on the budget than pies or cakes that required more ingredients. Children loved them because they felt like getting dessert before dinner even started, and adults appreciated how they stayed fresh for days. These bars were the quiet workhorses of holiday baking, slipped into tins, stacked on plates, and offered to neighbors dropping by unexpectedly. But as holiday desserts grew fancier and more visually impressive, oatmeal raisin bars fell off the menu. They were too simple, too plain, too old-fashioned for the new era of glossy pastries. Still, anyone who bites into one today will taste the tenderness of a dessert that knew exactly what it was supposed to do: feed a crowd with warmth and ease. Pralines were the creamy southern confection that melted on the tongue, their caramelized sugar and toasted pecans creating pure holiday indulgence. Mothers cooked sugar, butter, and cream until the mixture reached soft ball stage, then beat in vanilla and whole pecan halves until the candy turned opaque. Spooned quickly onto waxed paper, each praline spread into a flat disc with pecans arranged across its surface. The texture was what made pralines special. Not quite fudge, not quite caramel, but something uniquely smooth that dissolved into buttery sweetness. Families with southern roots considered pralines essential to Christmas, passing recipes through generations. Children learned to recognize the specific shade of amber that meant the candy was ready, watching mothers work with chemist precision. The smell of cooking pralines filled houses with warmth that captured the entire holiday season. Pralines couldn't be hurried, requiring skill that mothers perfected over years of Christmas candy making. Blanc mange molded in copper forms graced Victorian Christmas tables with its pristine beauty. This milk pudding, thickened with cornstarch or Irish moss and flavored with almond extract, emerged from molds in elaborate shapes that showcased the cook's artistry. The texture was silky smooth, trembling gently when carried to the table on silver platters. Families served it with fruit sauces, raspberry, strawberry, or preserved cherries, that provided color contrast and flavor counterpoint. Making proper blanc mange required attention to temperature and timing, the mixture needing precise cooking to set without becoming rubbery. Some cooks added ground almonds for authenticity. Others relied on extract alone for convenience. Children loved its mild sweetness and wobbly presentation, while adults appreciated its refined simplicity. The copper molds themselves were prized possessions, passed through generations and displayed in kitchen hutches. Blanc mange faded as instant puddings promised convenience, sacrificing elegance for speed. Buckeyes were the peanut butter balls dipped in chocolate to resemble Ohio's state nut, with their signature spot of tan peeking through dark coating. Mothers mixed peanut butter with butter, powdered sugar, and sometimes crispy rice cereal until the mixture was firm enough to roll. Each ball was chilled, then skewered with a toothpick and dipped into melted chocolate, leaving the top exposed. The two-tone appearance made Buckeyes instantly recognizable, their name honoring the Buckeye tree whose nuts they resembled. Children loved the combination of smooth peanut butter filling and crisp chocolate shell, often eating them in 2 bites to appreciate each texture separately. The Candies were particularly beloved in Midwestern families, where Buckeye trees grew and state pride ran strong. Making Buckeyes became a family assembly line, with children rolling balls while mothers handled the hot chocolate. These candies proved that regional traditions could spread nationwide when the flavor was this good. Orange fluff was the cloud-like confection that children circled back to throughout holiday meals, its sherbet orange color standing out among earth-toned dishes. Orange gelatin was dissolved and mixed with cottage cheese, whipped topping, mandarin orange segments, and miniature marshmallows until impossibly light and airy. The cottage cheese provided protein and subtle tang that balanced sweetness, while marshmallows added pockets of chewy texture. Chilled until set, but still soft, orange fluff was served in glass bowls where its sunset color glowed invitingly. Some versions added crushed pineapple or chopped pecans, but purists kept the base simple. The dish required no cooking and could be assembled days ahead, perfect for busy holiday schedules. Children often asked for orange fluff specifically, knowing it would appear at Thanksgiving and Christmas without fail. Orange fluff represented the era's love of convenience desserts dressed up as salads, occupying that sweet spot between side dish and treat. Butterscotch pie was the kind of dessert that made people stop mid-conversation when it was carried to the table, its glossy meringue peaks and golden filling catching the light in a way no one could ignore. The magic started on the stovetop, where sugar and butter melted together to create a deep caramel flavor that filled the kitchen with warmth. Once the mixture thickened into a silky custard, it was poured into a flaky crust and crowned with a cloud of meringue. Families loved it because it felt luxurious without being expensive, a dessert that tasted like a special occasion even on ordinary days. During the holidays, butterscotch pie was always one of the first things to disappear, with children fighting over the corner slices where the meringue browned just a little more. But as boxed pudding mixes and frozen pies became household staples, this stovetop masterpiece faded out. No one wanted to stand over a pot stirring carefully, watching for that perfect moment when the custard thickened. The world got busier, and the pie slipped quietly into memory. Yet anyone who tasted it fresh will tell you that nothing made with shortcuts ever came close, a lost masterpiece of sweetness and tradition. Stack cake for Christmas gatherings multiplied thin layers into towering monuments of Appalachian hospitality. Each layer was more cookie than cake, thin and sturdy enough to stack 6 or 8 high with dried apple filling between. The apple filling was cooked from dried fruit with brown sugar and spices until thick and spreadable. Families assembled stack cakes days before serving, allowing moisture from the filling to soften the layers into something almost pudding-like. The tradition held that wedding guests each brought a layer, but Christmas versions were made entirely at home. Each slice revealed the beautiful striations of dark filling and pale cake, a cross-section of patient effort. The flavor was deeply autumnal, apples, cinnamon, molasses, yet perfect for winter celebrations. Stack cakes kept for weeks, improving with time as flavors continued to meld. Making one required planning that began with drying apples months earlier. Stack cake was heritage baked into edible form. Peanut butter fudge was the creamy cousin to chocolate that children with nut cravings begged for every December. Mothers combined sugar, milk, and butter, cooking the mixture to softball stage before removing from heat and beating in generous scoops of peanut butter. The result was smoother than chocolate fudge, with a melt-in-your-mouth quality that made it dangerously easy to eat too much. Poured into buttered pans and cut into squares, the fudge had a pale tan color that looked almost like caramel but tasted purely of roasted peanuts. Some mothers swirled chocolate through the top, creating marbled patterns that made each piece unique. Children who preferred peanut butter to chocolate considered this their special candy, the one made just for them. The texture was softer than its chocolate counterpart, practically dissolving on the tongue without requiring much chewing. Peanut butter fudge represented the variations mothers created to ensure every child had a favorite on the Christmas candy plate. Spiced crab apples were the garnish that elevated holiday platters from ordinary to elegant, their deep ruby color and clove-studded skins announcing celebration. Whole crab apples were simmered in sweetened vinegar syrup infused with cinnamon sticks, cloves, and allspice until they turned translucent and tender. The fruits were packed into jars with their spiced liquid and stored for weeks, improving as flavors concentrated. Come Christmas, they were arranged around roasts and hams like edible jewels, their glossy skins catching candlelight beautifully. The taste was intensely sweet tart, with warming spice notes that complemented rich meats. Some families made their own from backyard trees, while others relied on store-bought versions. Children often avoided them, but adults treasured spiced crab apples as essential holiday tradition. The jars themselves became gifts, wrapped in ribbon for neighbors. Spiced crab apples represented the artistry of preservation, autumn's harvest transformed into winter's ornament. Date nut roll was the kind of dessert that made children hover anxiously around the kitchen, waiting for the moment it was sliced. It was not a pie or a cake, but a refrigerator candy, rolled by hand and packed with sweet dates, nuts, and just enough cookie crumbs to hold everything together. Families made it weeks before the holiday, storing it away in wax paper like treasure hidden in the back of the fridge. When you sliced it, the spirals of sticky fruit and crunchy nuts made every piece look like a tiny stained glass window, and the taste was just as memorable. It was sweet without being overwhelming. rich without being heavy, and easy to stretch for a crowd when money was tight. Making it was a labor of love, requiring time and patience that people no longer make space for. As store-bought candy boxes and pre-made sweets filled the shelves, the roll faded away, seen as too old-fashioned or too fiddly for modern kitchens, but back then it symbolized celebration, care, and the quiet excitement of a holiday dessert pulled from a cold shelf on a chilly evening. A little forgotten, maybe, but never undeserving of its place at the table. Tipsy Parson wobbled onto Christmas tables carrying centuries of English tradition and considerable amounts of sherry. This layered trifle began with sponge cake soaked in sweet sherry until thoroughly saturated, then spread with jam and topped with rich custard and whipped cream. The alcohol permeated everything, making each spoonful warming and slightly intoxicating. Families assembled the dessert in clear glass bowls to display the beautiful layers, each stratum visible and inviting. The name came from the notion that village parsons, known for their love of sherry, might become tipsy from such indulgence. Children received versions made with fruit juice instead, preserving their innocence while adults enjoyed the spirituous original. Making Tipsy Parson required nothing more than patience and good ingredients, yet the result rivaled elaborate French desserts. The tradition faded as trifles simplified and alcohol content became controversial. Tipsy Parson deserved better than obscurity. Creamed celery was the sophisticated cousin of other creamed vegetables, turning the overlooked stalk into something worthy of fine china and silver spoons. Cooks sliced celery on the diagonal and simmered it until tender, then folded it into rich white sauce enriched with cream and butter. Seasonings were delicate: white pepper, a touch of nutmeg, perhaps parsley for color. The celery retained gentle crunch even in the sauce, providing textural interest other creamed vegetables lacked. This was a dish for formal dinners and holiday gatherings, its mild elegance complementing rather than competing with richer offerings. Pale green and white colors added sophistication to tables heavy with browns. Some cooks topped creamed celery with toasted almonds, creating a gratin that bordered on indulgent. The dish required fresh celery at its crispest, making winter holidays the perfect occasion. Creamed celery has virtually disappeared from modern menus, a casualty of changing tastes that forgot how refined simple vegetables could become. Rum balls were the adult-friendly treat that children begged to taste despite, or perhaps because of, being told they couldn't. Mothers would crush vanilla wafers into fine crumbs, then mix them with cocoa powder, powdered sugar, corn syrup, chopped pecans, and enough rum to bind everything together. The mixture was rolled into small balls, then coated in more powdered sugar, cocoa, or finely chopped nuts. No baking was required, making rum balls perfect for busy December days when ovens were already occupied. The flavor was sophisticated, the rum mellowing as the balls aged and integrating with chocolate and nuts into something complex. Some mothers made batches with less rum specifically for children, though kids always wanted the real thing. Stored in tins, rum balls improved over several days, the flavors deepening and the texture becoming more tender. They were passed at adult gatherings and tucked into gift boxes for teachers and neighbors, a candy that bridged the gap between cookie and confection. Frozen fruit salad was the jewel of holiday buffets, its pastel sweetness providing cool contrast to hot, savory dishes crowding Christmas tables. Cream cheese was whipped with mayonnaise until smooth, then folded together with whipped cream, canned fruit cocktail, maraschino cherries, and miniature marshmallows. Some versions added crushed pineapple or mandarin oranges for extra fruit presence. The mixture was poured into loaf pans and frozen solid, then sliced into pink-tinged rounds that held their shape beautifully on lettuce-lined platters. The texture was unlike anything else on the table. Frozen yet creamy, sweet yet tangy from the cream cheese base. Children adored it, begging for extra slices, while adults appreciated how it could be made weeks in advance. The salad straddled categories, appearing sometimes with sides and sometimes with desserts. Frozen fruit salad represented the 1970s love of make-ahead entertaining, proving that planning could produce something genuinely delightful. Caramel pecan cake was once a classic centerpiece dessert, the kind made when someone really wanted to show off their best baking skills. The cake layers were soft and buttery, but the true magic was the caramel glaze made on the stovetop. It bubbled slowly until thick and glossy, then was poured over the cake while still hot, carrying chopped pecans across the top like little jewels. The glaze hardened just slightly as it cooled, turning each slice into a perfect balance of crunch and softness. Holiday tables welcomed it proudly, before store-bought caramel toppings and boxed cakes pushed it aside. People used to gather around the kitchen to watch the caramel come together, knowing it could burn in a heartbeat if you turned away. That kind of dessert required attention, care, and a quiet hour at the stove, things fewer homes had time for. But those who remember it can still hear that soft caramel drip down the sides and feel the warmth of a cake made with genuine effort. Which old-fashioned candy will you make first this Christmas? Share your family's favorite recipe in the comments below, hit like if this brought back sweet memories, and subscribe for more holiday traditions worth keeping alive.